Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sports Cards Anonymous. This is a channel where we have conversations about cards. Now, usually this would be the slow burn, but it is freezing outside. I tried to shoot it, couldn't get a fire going. All my wood is froze. It is what it is, so we're going to be indoors. Today, I want to talk about a hobby trope that we all say all the time, and it's buy the card, not the grade. And, for myself, I think I've been on a bit of a collecting renaissance recently. I mean, I really have a fire under me with collecting. And I took a lot of time off YouTube and I took a lot of time, being introspective. What is it that I really want and really like out of collecting and looking at other people that I consider to be very good collectors. Some of them and through that, some of these hobby tropes, such as buy the card, not the grade, we understand that. I understood what that mean to an extent, but somehow over time, it's like the understanding gets deeper and it's a little bit more internalized. And when I talk about building a museum quality collection, building your own personal museum, this buy the card, not the grade is going to be very important. But setting that aside, maybe I won't say it again the rest of this video. What I want to talk about is the hobby's overcommitment, over reliance on PSA 10, BGS 95, BGS 10, whatever. I'm not trying to call it PSA 10 in particular. It just happens to be the one that's the most popular right now. And 20 years ago in the hobby, grading wasn't as big. If you went to go buy a card, you evaluated it for yourself. Are you happy with the centering? Are you happy with the edges? Are you happy with the corners? And for the most part, because most transactions then were still with raw cards, as long as the card was basically near mint or better, there was no issues. You wouldn't say, oh, well, look at these condition issues. Near mint or better, that was kind of the expected quality of cards then. And, over time that changed a little bit. And if you want proof to that was, kind of how cards operated, you went off Beckett Price Guide and they didn't really have graded pricing. They developed some over time and put it in the back of the Beckett, but it was all based on, when you went through the Beckett, it was based on raw cards. And there were two columns, and one, the second column was a higher value. And that's, basically if your card was near mint or better, you would go off that second column. And anything lower than that, you would go off the first column, which was a higher price. Now, maybe that wasn't Beckett's stated, idea for the two columns. I don't know, but that's how it was used. So then over time, things changed. PSA became king. COVID happens. You have an influx of new people. And this is when I really noticed this fixation with PSA 10. And I'm sure it's because there was a lot of new people and they were looking for certainty in an uncertain market, right? There's a lot of variance in card collecting. I really continue to drive home that I think this is basically artwork. We are art collectors in some way, shape, or form. And, that leaves a lot of like, we don't really know, how to value things. It can vary person to person. And so, yeah, we went into comps. We already talked about that. But then for the evaluation of the card itself, I think people leaned heavily on grades as we got into COVID because people were learning and the grades helped. And then there became this fixation with Gem Mint 10. And, everyone wanted that. They wanted the PSA 10 because it was the highest and it was the best. And I really do think that it's become part of our subconscious that we look for the Gem Mint 10. And not just that we look for it, but that if it's not Gem Mint 10, it actually immediately detracts from our appreciation of the card. Because you look at the label, Gem Mint 10, right, on a PSA, Gem Mint takes up, 7, 8 characters? Because there's a space there. And then the 10 takes up 2 characters. So you have Gem Mint and then 10. It takes up a lot of characters. When it drops to a Mint 9, Mint takes up 4 and 9 is just 1, obviously. 1 character. So there leaves a lot of white space on the label. I know this is going a little bit deep, but I really do think this. I think that when someone looks at a card and it says Mint 9 instead of Gem Mint 10, I think that whiteness, I think that emptiness on the label, immediately people just kind of have a negative reaction to it. It kind of detracts from the card and it takes something away. And then if you go all the way down to near mint 7, near mint is just NM. It's 2 characters and the 7 is 1. I think people really look at that and think it's like, oh man, this is like trash condition. But in reality, for the history of the hobby until, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, um, you know, near mint 7 was kind of what we dealt in. Every card, if it's near mint or better, you're happy. Like, we're just looking for mint or better or near mint or better. Um, yeah, it's so hard to tell the difference between those two. So I'll lay that out, and I want to give an example here. What I'm arguing for is that you need to be looking for stunning cards, rare cards that meet your collection criteria. They're cards of players that are telling the story you want to tell. Um, they're card styles and artworks that you like and appreciate, and they're rare. And if you're checking all those boxes, then the condition matters a lot less. As long as the card is in good enough condition that the appearance of the card is not um, hurt by the condition of the card, it's good enough, right? Like, that is good enough. And to me, that's a near mint 7 or better. And I want to give an example of this recently. Sports Cards Investors, they just released a video. I don't know, Jeff, it was a PSA blind reveal, and he probably went through 100 cards. It was a ton of cards. Frankly, I've only made it about 70% through. I will finish it. I just didn't have time to finish it earlier. And the first card up, beautiful card. It's a Patrick Mahomes 2017 limited RPA. Limited. I don't think it was called Leaf Limited then. I'm pretty sure it's just called Limited. So limited RPA, 3-color patch. Beautiful, beautiful card, beautiful artwork, and a wonderful blue bold auto over a white auto area. Like, to me, just high quality, wonderful card. So the way that he was doing this was he had the card flat on the table, and then he had a camera over it, and the card was there in the PSA slab, and then he had a blue post-it note over the label so that so we didn't see it, and it was a blind reveal for him. So he's got the card on the table, and he looks at it, and he talks about how he acquired it. He talked about how 2017 RPAs are rare because they weren't making as many back then. He talked about how when he looked at this card, he thought it was in great condition. Now, obviously, this is a fat card, and we know these don't grade as well. And he, accounts for all that. But he's like, I think this was really nice. I think it's an 8, and I think there's a chance that it could get a 9. And again, card on the table, camera, 12 to 15 inches above it. Me looking at it through the screen, yeah, this card is mint. Like, it's beautiful card, no issues with it. So he talks about all those good traits about the card. He rips off the label, and it's a near mint 7. He rips off the post-it, and it's a near mint 7. And he immediately is like, that's disappointing, and it's just like, is it disappointing though? Like, it's a beautiful card. It's in great condition. We should appreciate that card for what it is. Now, I understand he's trying to make money and it's a business and all of this. I understand all those things. But he talked about it first, why that card was rare, why it was special, and then why it looked in great condition to him. And then when PSA says, no, it's a 7, it hurts him. It takes away from his experience of that card. And I think it's a mistake. I think he should recognize and lean into how special that card is. And the fact that it's a PSA 7 should almost be irrelevant. It's near mint or better. You're not really going to beat that. That card was numbered to 10. He talked about it's hard to find Mahomes RPAs. Like, the grade is not going to hurt the value that much. In fact, I would argue that a PSA 7 of that card should not sell at any real discount to a PSA 8. I mean, to me, it should be immaterial. The fact that you have the card is the important fact. The fact that it's a 7 is somewhat irrelevant. Now, PSA, it's here to stay, and the gradings are here to stay. And to be frank, I mean, I like having my cards in PSA labels because they show well. It's a better way to display the card because it explains what the card is. I could do without the grade. I actually don't need the grade there, but I like the way that it shows and tells you what the card is right when you look at it. And so someone who may not be familiar with that card or that set, it's just there and it's obvious. And frankly, yourself, you buy a card and maybe you don't look at it for a couple months, as you rotate it through your collection. And when you see it, it's nice to just have it all there on the front. Anyway, move on to one more example from this video. He bought a Super Bowl ticket signed by Tom Brady. Nice. It was wonderful. He specifically said he bought it because of the condition. The condition was so good. Pulls off the label, pulls off the post-it, PSA 6. Again, dejected. He's disappointed. He's disappointed it got a 6, and he immediately says, well, this is for the PC anyway, so it doesn't matter, right? But he's obviously sad about it. And just by the way, I like Jeff. I've only had a couple interactions with him. He's always been nice. This is not me like talking bad about him in any way. I think this is a very common reaction in how people act in the hobby. And he even after he sees a 6, he's like, "This is in such good condition. I just don't understand." And he was still like, it looks good, but it's a PSA 6, and it takes away from his experience with that car, with that item. For that's not a card; it's an item. And I would say that we really need to fight back against that urge of letting the PSA grade negatively affect our interaction with that card, our enjoyment of that card. A 7, 8, 9, or 10, right? If you have if you put on the table in front of you, if you put a 7, 8, 9, or 10 of you name it, 2018 Ronald Acuna Topps Chrome base rookie, 7, 8, 9, and 10. You put it on the table in front of you. You have a 7, you have an 8, a 9, and a 10. You're looking at the cards 12 to 15 inches from them, right? Because we don't look at cards like right in our face. We look at them from a distance, probably 12 to 15 inches on average. The visual difference in those cards would be likely imperceivable. You would not notice the differences in those four cards. If blinded, you might think they're all the same grade. But when you pull back, when you see the grades, you say, "Well, why is this a 7?" And then you got to pull out, your freaking jeweler's loop and look all over all the card and say, "Oh, there's this like spider crease on the back somewhere that you can't see with the naked eye. You have to zoom in to see it." And so because of that, it gets a 7. And it's why would I let that bother me about the card? It doesn't bother me at all. That card looks wonderful. It's going to be a great part of my collection. Now, obviously, I don't want a Ronald Acuna base Chrome rookie, but for myself. But I just mean in general, right? So when you go through your collection journey, if you're looking for cards that I say meet the stunning standard, they're rare. They have the traits and qualities that you look for. For me, it's going to be like wonderful 90s inserts and parallels, or just awesome, patch autos of game used patches or rookie event used patches from the 2000s and the 2010s, nice on card autos, right? These are the things that I like. As long as they're meeting those standards and they're rare, the grade is almost irrelevant. And the point that I really want to get to is stop paying the premium for the 10s. Now, it blows my mind. Anytime I see a card that I'm really looking for and I see it and it's listed, oh, thank goodness there's one listed, and it's a Gem Mint 10, I know right away I'm not buying this because somebody thinks it's worth, like freaking 6x what a raw copy is worth. And it's just nonsense. We have to stop relying on what PSA is telling us about that card to find fulfillment in the card, to find enjoyment in the card. You have to judge for yourself. Are you satisfied? And the easiest way, what you have to overcome is you have to overcome like needing the Gem Mint 10, needing the Mint 9, just enjoying the card that's in the case and appreciating that it's in great condition, that it's in Mint Plus condition. I'll give you an example. I have one card here on the desk. Love this card. I bought this off of Elite Co 3 on eBay. This is a 1999 Fleer Ultra Platinum Medallion. These are numbered to 99. You'll see it's an SGC 85. I don't care for SGC. I don't care for the SGC case. I mean, this looks fine. It's whatever. This is how I bought it from him. It's an 85. I don't care. I honestly, if I didn't pull this out and like look at it and have it for this video, I could tell you I have this card. I would not have been able to tell you what the grade was because I don't care about the grade at all. I want the card. I want the card to be mint-ish, right? Near mint plus. And, as long as we're checking those boxes, I'm going to be okay. So let me get to how does this, how, if you agree with me, then how do we, take this information and make our collection better? Grab another sip here. I'm dealing with freaking RSV. My infant had RSV. She had the vaccine though, so it wasn't too bad, thank goodness. And then me and the missus got it. I'm just still working through all this stuff. Had the flu at Christmas. It's been a rough month, but we'll get through it. All right. What I try to avoid buying PSA 10s pretty much across the board. And if I'm buying if I'm buying a card for myself, if it's a Mint 9, a Near Mint 8, Near Mint Plus 8, or a Near Mint 7, I see all three of those as the same value. Like, I don't place more value on a 9 and I don't place less value on a 7. I look at the card, I'm like, this is how much I want to spend on the card. I don't care if it's a 7, a 8, or a 9. It looks good. I'm going to be happy with it. This is what I'm willing to spend. And so that kind of goes back to my last video about, kind of throw comps out the window. If I'm looking at a 7 and I'm saying, hey, I'm willing to spend 800 bucks on this card, comps would argue that a 7 should go for 500 and not a 9 should go for 1,000. And this guy has a 7. It's the only one. It's the only card listed, and it's a 7 listed for 800. Well, okay, I don't need it for 500. I want the card. I understand that that's way higher than comps, but at the same time, it's a rare card. It's hard to find. It's a nice, clean copy. If it was a 9, it would sell for 1,000. I think getting a 7 in that ballpark of 750, 800 is completely fine. Again, given all the conditions that I lay out for rarity and stunning standard. And but what I won't do is I will not pay a massive premium for a 9 or a 10, right? I don't want to, if it's $1,000 card, I don't want to see a 10 listed and, a guy's asking 3 grand for it, right? I think, if you get fixated on those 10s and you want to pay that 3 grand, you know, your pockets. Yeah, I'm not trying to measure anyone's pockets or count their change. You do your own thing, but it will take away from what you're able to accomplish with your collection because you're focused on that label saying Jim Mint 10, when in reality, there is little to no distinguishable difference between a 7, 8, 9, or 10. And so, because of that, if you play in the shallow end of the pool with the 7s and 8s, you're going to be able to accumulate a lot of great and wonderful cards that fit your collection. Whereas if you just focus on the 10s, you're going to be spending a lot of money for a premium that really, to me, is irrelevant. Now, some people may feel different. You may feel that the premium matters, and that's okay. I mean, you collect how you want to collect. That's what everyone likes to say, right? I don't know if I agree with it, but it's what everyone likes to say. But if you can get over that mental hurdle of the 10 and focus on the lower items, the lower grades, the 7, 8s, and 9s, you're going to be able to accumulate some great cards. And I was thinking, what are some examples maybe we could walk through? I don't know exactly what the prices would be, but I was thinking about, like, what if you had like a late 2010s Larry Bird patch auto, right? Flawless patch auto, let's just say, nice 3-color patch. That card in a 10, maybe a guy wants 10 grand for it, and that card in a 7, maybe somebody's asking 1,500 or 2 grand for it. Let's just call it 2 grand. If you buy the 7 for 2 grand, if that's a card that you want in your collection, you're always going to be happy with it. You're not going to look at it and say, "Oh, I wish this was a 10," because you did the homework, you did the work, the heavy lifting up front to understand what it is you want in your collection. So you knew this Larry Bird, 3-color game use patched on card auto was a banger. You knew it was one that fit your collection. It was a need in your collection. And when you buy the 7 for 2 grand instead of fighting over that 10 for 10 grand, you're saving that $8,000, but you're still getting the card that you want. Now, some people are going to are going to look at that and say, no, you need the 10. You have to have the best of the best. You know, it depends on, your collection mindset and what it is you're trying to do with your collection, but there really is no need. There is no need to show off with a 10 on that card when you look at the card itself, 3-color game used on card auto of Larry Bird. I mean, that's a beautiful card. It doesn't need help from the PSA label. It does the heavy lifting on its own. You just have to make sure that it fits into your collection. So by avoiding the PSA 10 premium, it allows you to go buy better and greater cards. And I'll tell you right now in this market, I mean, I see it constantly. Raw cards, PSA 7, PSA 8, they are super slept on right now. Nobody is looking at this the way they should be. They're looking at the 9s and the 10s. And again, I think mostly I'm talking about, really wonderful patch autos, and then, even the fat autos like Flawless and National Treasures and stuff like that. These things tend to not grade well. And I don't know, for some reason, people are avoiding the raw cards, and the 7s and 8s are going for a severe discount to 9 and 10. And you might say, well, that's obvious because they're not 9s and 10s. Well, yeah, okay. They're going to fill that hole in your collection all the same. You don't need the 10 to scratch the itch. You don't need the 10 to make you enjoy the card. Yeah, I hope I laid this out well enough. It just sevens and eights. If you have a card that you want, stunning standard card, meets all the criteria for being in your museum, it shouldn't matter if it's a 7, 8, 9, or 10. Condition matters. I 100% agree condition matters to a point, right? It doesn't need to be super ultra pristine. And in fact, Gem Mint 10 doesn't even guarantee that. Gem Mint 10, I think the standard is 55-45 centering. How is that Gem Mint? It's certainly not pristine. It's not immaculate. So Gem Mint does not even mean a perfect card. And so if you can have a Gem Mint and um, it has errors, it has defects, then really, what is the purpose of a Gem Mint 10, of paying the premium, of having that condition, that copy, versus the 7, where it has a soft corner on the back that does not take away from eye appeal whatsoever? There's really no difference. Neither card is perfect. One just cost 80% less, but both are going to fill the hole in your collection, in your museum, all the same. So why not stick with the 7? Just go to the 7 and save on budget. And I would strongly implore people to really look at Raw. I really feel like Raw is overlooked right now. I feel like people aren't looking at it now. Neo just put out a video about vintage Raw and the concerns. And I agree. Raw doesn't just mean every card ever, right? Vintage, I would only buy graded because I want that authentic label. And then that's a whole different thing where condition matters a lot more for that as well. But when you look at this ultra modern and modern stuff, man, Raw, man, it's okay to buy Raw. You don't have to be scared to buy Raw. You can buy Raw cards. You can judge for yourself. Is it in good enough condition? And if you want it graded because you want the label for your collection, that's fine. If it comes back a 7, be happy with that. It's authentic. It's real. It doesn't detract from the card. So, don't be afraid to buy Raw. I think there's a lot of nervousness to buy Raw. And I think that comes from COVID too. When all these people came in, it was like, oh, graded, so you know what you get. That was a big talking point, like the legitimacy of the hobby being backed by like PSA, because now you know what you're getting, versus if you buy Raw, well, what condition is it in? Well, you can judge for yourself, especially in person. Go to some shows, buy some cards in person. One more point I want to maybe reiterate. I think I already made it. I want to reiterate it. When you look at your collection, right? We all have our collection out many different ways. You like this bat, by the way? 2017 game used Carlos Correa bat, the black one. Just thought I'd throw that out there for you. A little Astros World Series business right there. It's cracked though. Yeah, I think it got hit on a trash can or something. I don't know. That's what I read in the notes, but I don't know. Anyway, when you enjoy your collection, how do you enjoy it? Now, I'm really asking you, how do you enjoy your collection? Do you have a wall just filled with cards? Do you have a Pelican case? Do you have a shoebox? I want you to think through this. When you're really enjoying your cards, it's like, hey, I want to go enjoy some of the cards in my collection. How do you enjoy it, right? Say it's on a wall. Say you have a wall full of cards. You enjoy it probably 2 to 5 feet away. You are probably looking at those cards 2 to 5 feet away. If you're 2 to 5 feet away, can you tell the difference in a PSA 7 or a PSA 10? Other than the label itself, can you see the difference? Obviously, you cannot. Obviously, you cannot see the difference. Okay. Well, that's on the wall. What about if you have a Pelican case or a shoebox or whatever you're going through? Now, when you're going through your shoebox or Pelican case, you're rifling through cards and you pick one up and you want to look at it. And you look at it. This is how far you look at a card. 12 to 18 inches. Can I tell the difference between a 7 or a 10, 12 to 18 inches? Probably not. Maybe some 7s, especially with patches. Maybe there's something funky around the patch. Maybe some soft corners or something on the thick cards. Got it. You might see that. Does that detract from the card? No. That's part of the hobby. That's part of the thick cards. That's just how it goes. That when you see that, you don't think, oh, that's unfortunate. That card's trash now. No, you're looking at the card and you go, oh, this is a wonderful, beautiful 3-color game-used patch auto of Jeff Bagwell. It's on card. What a wonderful design this card is. Right? When you have cards that you really care about and like, that's what you're going to be looking at. You're going to be looking at how awesome the card is. You're not going to be looking at the difference between a 7 and a 10. Now, if you're I don't know if any of these people exist, and you might be. But if you enjoy your collection by taking it out of your box and then getting that jeweler's loop and then looking over every millimeter of the card, then yeah, you might see a difference between a 7 and a 10. So maybe you need to stick with tens. But short of that, 7, 8, 9, and 10, or 7, 8, or 9, you're going to be plenty happy. And that one last point about the card too, and finding appreciation in the card. I want to talk a little bit more about, in the future about spark. A card, if it does not provide a spark in you, if it's not something you look at and be like, this is awesome, like I'm so happy to have this card, then you're always going to judge it harshly, right? You're going to rely on aspects outside of the card. You're going to rely on that PSA grade, that label to tell you why the card is awesome, unless you really feel that the card is awesome. If you feel it's awesome, you're not going to care about that label. You're going to be happy to have that card. And so, again, I'm challenging you to, as you buy cards for your collection, make sure they hit that note, right? Make sure they feel that spark. They incite that spark in you. And if that happens, you will not care about the grade long term. You're going to be happy to have that wonderful card. And yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. I'm not to poo poo on PSA, and certainly not on Jeff Wilson or any of this. All I'm saying is, as you're putting your museum together, you're building your collection, do some heavy lifting up front. Really think through what it is you want in your collection, and then chase the stunning cards that fulfill the needs of your collection. And if you do that, then you don't need to lean on the grade for awesomeness in your collection. You're leaning on the card. And that's what we should be doing. We are collecting cards. When people say they're in the hobby, they say, I collect cards. They don't say, I collect PSA labels. So, push yourself outside of your boundaries. Get outside of the need for a certain label, for a certain look. It's okay, man. It's okay to buy raw. It's okay to buy 7s and 8s and 9s even. I'll probably get some comments about that because of a video I did many years ago, but it's okay. 9s are fine, 8s are great, and 7s, they put me in heaven, I tell you that. I'll leave you right there with it. I thank you all for tuning in. I hope to see you all again. Keep building your collection. Until next time, as always, my friends, keep collecting.